Welcome to the CareFinity Live Archive discussion. My name is Shauna and I will be sharing some information with you today about CareFinity Live Archive. So at this point, you might be thinking, what is CareFinity Live Archive and what can it do for me? I'm so glad you asked. CareFinity Live Archive is a software solution that we built, implement, and support here at MedTech Solutions, or you might know us as MTS. The software was created to solve data needs and issues within medical practices. MTS is an IT company, but we are a healthcare specific IT company. We are laser focused on solving the difficult problems for providers and clinics. Many years ago, clinic groups began moving from the paper world to the electronic health world. It was great. Clinic groups have been rocking along using their EHRs, capturing patient data electronically, and we have not looked back. But now we're starting to move into a new season of the EHR world. You, as a provider, have documented years worth of clinical data in your EHR, potentially thousands of visits, huge sums of clinical data, and then all that content is multiplied by every provider in your practice. Now we must begin to start thinking about how do we manage all this data? And that's where CareFinity Live Archive comes into the picture. CareFinity Live Archive is an application that's honestly true to its name. It allows you to begin to archive your data. We can start small with a limited set of criteria, or we can go big and really make an immediate impact on the data. The choice is yours. With CareFinity Live Archive, we will work together to configure the application as you would see fit to archive patients from your EHR. Within the CareFinity application, you would have the ability to view those records, and if needed, those records could be restored back into your EHR for use on an upcoming visit. It's really the best of both worlds. Continue to have the clinical data that you need at your fingertips, but gain the benefit of moving data out of your source EHR. Let's take a look at the CareFinity application, and let me show you a little bit about what it has to offer to you. CareFinity is a web-based application which gives us a tremendous amount of flexibility in the way it's deployed and accessed. CareFinity can be accessed two ways: from a link that we put into your EHR, if the source EHR will allow us to set up an external link to browse out to the web, or direct login from the website, which is what I'm going to demonstrate today. So you see on my screen the CareFinity website. I've entered my user credentials, and now I'm going to click Login. When I log in, I'm initially presented with the appointments for the day for my preferred provider. In this case, that's Matthew Abbott. I can select from this list, or I can go to Patient Search and search for any patient that's been archived out of my source EHR into the CareFinity application. I'm going to search for my patient Blue Green. Once a patient is selected, that patient record is loaded into CareFinity. I can see here at the top that I have some demographic information. This demographic information can be helpful in confirming that I'm looking at the patient that I expected to be looking at, as well as to have necessary information at my fingertips like their phone number, their pharmacy name, their pharmacy number, etc. When you launch a patient chart in CareFinity, the initial presentation of the data is on what we call the dashboard. The dashboard contains 6 widgets of clinical information that you see on your screen here: diagnosis, allergies, medication, visits, labs, and orders. The dashboard is the 30,000-foot overview of the data that's been archived for this specific patient. In each of these widgets or clinical areas, the dashboard shows the most 5 recent archive records, with the most recent being placed on top, listing the data in reverse chronological order. If I want to see more information about any of these items or additional entries or content, I have a couple of options. I can either choose the Show More link that's present in each of these clinical areas, or I can click that item on the left-hand navigation. Regardless, if I click Show More or I click the left-hand navigation, I'm going to be launched into a detailed view of that particular data element. Once I launch into that Show More or that detailed view, I now have more information available to me on that content. I have all of the data elements, not just the top 5. I have all of the entries. I can search these entries. I can sort on any of the column headers, and I can even print this information out with, of course, with appropriate security privileges. If we just work down the left-hand side and look at the different entries, you're going to see as I go from diagnosis to allergies to medications, while the columns may vary on the content, because the content that you need in the different clinical areas can vary topic to topic, the content's going to vary, but the format of the screen is going to be very similar from area to area, with the ability to search, the column headers that can be sorted, and then potentially the print button. We do this so that CareFinity is very user-friendly. It doesn't take a lot of training. We hope that your end users and your providers can launch into CareFinity, and even if they hadn't received an application review or any training, could navigate the screens effectively. Visits follow that same formatting on the screen where I can search, click on my column headers, click the print button, whatever I might need to do. But also here I'd like to highlight the page view that we offer. As you notice here on visits, it shows that it's showing 10 of 18 records. We put 10 records to a page, so because this patient has 18 visits, we have 2 pages available to us. In CareFinity, we page the data versus having a lot of scroll bars, so regardless of what type of device you connect on, whether it's a really large monitor sitting in your office or maybe even accessing CareFinity on a device as small as your phone, the screens will be easy to navigate because of the page view. If we hop into labs, very similar look and feel, but a little bit of a variation here where we can pick the different lab categories to be able to select different labs to review. If there was more than one value or more than one result for these different items, I could graph that over time to get a visual representation of how the patient's been doing on different lab tests or markers. Orders, again, a similar look and feel with the search and the sort option, but I have an additional layer on top of orders where I can pick the type of order that this is. So for example, if I only want to search my referrals, I can first choose referral in the order type and then have all of that functionality to search, filter, and sort just on the referrals itself. So just a little bit of an additional layer with the ability to slice and dice that data. And then the last clinical area that I'd like to review with you today are the vitals. The vitals, we have the opportunity to graph any of the vitals that you see here and compare the values over time. And then also for your kiddos, we have the opportunity to generate growth charts should that be needed. So navigating CareFinity really starts on your homepage with the dashboard, and then you can drive the workflow depending on what you logged into CareFinity for and what you might be looking to review. We also have the opportunity to look at documents and images. Documents and images both are stored in CareFinity, and they are grouped or classified by category following the, the theme of your source EHR. So when you log into CareFinity, the pill tabs that you see across the top of documents and images will mirror what you have configured as far as your groupings, categories, or classifications of documents and images in your source EHR today. You still have the same opportunity to filter this information. If I wanted to view a document, I can click the icon on the right, view the note, whatever it might be. I have the opportunity to print and export that, of course, if I have the appropriate privileges. Or I could search, or if I know, what category I want to go to, I can just toggle over to that category and get a short list of the information and then be able to search for what I need. Just depends on what you come in for and what might be the best path to find the data that you're looking for. Images, very similar to documents where we have the categories or the topical sort across the top. Images are neat because they also give you a thumbnail view. So when you go into any of your images, you're going to have the details of that image itself, the name, the date of service, things of that nature. But of course, you can drill into the image itself, print, export, or take a closer look at that item. And then finally, we have financials. Financials gives you a high level financial overview of the patient record. What you see in tan is the total at the patient level or the chart level, and then breaks down into your dates of service, visits, and counters listed below. If you wanted to drill in a little bit deeper, get a little bit closer look at any of these items, you can do that. Drill into the actual encounter details. And then if you had payments or anything posted here, we could even drill into the specific transactions that might be tied to those. So a nice financial overview to where, in the event of a downtime or a system outage, hopefully we could still take patient phone calls, maybe answer questions and not get so behind in those areas by having a point of reference to continue to have those discussions as needed. The data that you see in CareFinity Live Archive is no longer in your source EHR. So the idea is to offload rarely used clinical and financial data, documents, and images out of the EHR and put that data into CareFinity where it can still be accessed, reviewed, and even restored back into the patient chart in the EHR if needed. So I see blue-green here, and I can see all if these visits that have been archived. And if I kind of come in here, I can see the archived visits. If I wanted to restore any of those, I could go to the patient restore option. And I have a couple of choices for my manual restore process. I can restore everything and click restore, or I can select a date range. So I have choices when it comes to restoring the data. I might want to just restore more of the recent data, or I could choose to restore everything that we have in CareFinity back into your source EHR. Just depending on the patient and the situation, you might make either selection. This restore will be queued up, and then the next time your restore job runs, that information would be pushed back into your source EHR and made available like any other record that you might access there. Now, when you're in a downtime situation, regardless if it's planned or unplanned, you can use CareFinity to capture patient notes and charges. So let's take a little bit of a look at how that might work. When you are in a downtime situation, regardless if it's planned or unplanned, you can use CareFinity to capture patient notes and charges. Patient Notes allows you to capture details and documentation within the CareFinity application. You can either use a blank template like you see here, or your administrator can build out templates that will have predefined fields to capture that content. Then there's also the opportunity to capture charges within CareFinity. Each organization can build 3 different pick lists of your most common CPT codes that you would want to make convenient for your end users to capture in CareFinity. And then once connectivity is restored, CareFinity can send both the notes and charges back into your source EHR. As we begin to wrap up today, let's take a moment to talk through the challenges that we hope to solve with CareFinity. The first one being business continuity. Whether it be a planned or unplanned outage, CareFinity can serve as a resource for the practice, allowing the clinical team to still see patients, create notes, and even capture charges. And then once connectivity is restored, the notes and charges can flow back into your source EHR. Another value of CareFinity is the ability to access it anywhere on any device. If you are rounding at the hospital and want to pull up a chart on your laptop or tablet, you can. If you're seeing a patient at a nursing home and want to pull up a chart or look at a piece of information like a past medication or what the patient's vitals were the last time that you saw them, go for it. Not only does CareFinity help with the archiving of your data, but it also takes snapshots of your current data and provides convenient access to you anytime, anywhere. Medical legal challenges has been a very interesting transition from the paper world to the electronic world for clinical documentation. We have had so many processes in place for the paper world, but when we move to the electronic world, we seem to abandon those processes. Why? We still need to archive data in the electronic world just as we did in the paper world. We still need to destroy charts once they've reached their retention criteria. CareFinity Live Archive is the solution to help you meet these needs. And then finally, chart performance. In EHRs today, it's a common issue that when you need to open the chart of a routine patient, It just takes time to load. There's a lot of data, content, and images for the system to process. CareFinity Live Archive is a solution for this issue by archiving some of the older content out of your database and freeing up the processing power of your EHR to make available to you more recent content for your clinical decision-making needs. So let's recap. With CareFinity Live Archive, we would be expecting to experience increased speed when loading complex patient charts, to free up EHR database space so that you can continue adding new content into your database without seeing the additional growth in hardware needs, restore archived records back into your source EHR when needed, have a Plan B solution and access to your clinical and financial data in the event of a planned or unplanned outage, control archiving rules, and help you facilitate and support secure, compliant, long-term data access. I hope this discussion has been beneficial for your needs and helped illustrate how CareFinity Live Archive can benefit you personally as well as your practice. If we can provide any additional information, or if you would like to schedule a demonstration for your organization, please do not hesitate to reach out. We would love to hear from you. Thank you so very much for your time today.